Hello everyone, Pastor Freddie here. I'm the pastor at Living Word Church, and I want to thank you for joining me today for a few minutes to kind of recap what we went over this past weekend. Man, we've been having some great times at Living Word Church over our weekends together. We've been in this series called Following Jesus in the Age of Outrage, and it doesn't take much convincing to really think about how much outrage is all around us. And, you know, as Christ followers, we're called to something different from the rest of the world. We might classify that as countercultural. When I was growing up, you know, countercultural was like thinking about my entertainment choices. Maybe I didn't use the same kind of language as my friends did, or I didn't listen to the same kind of music, and we kind of categorized it that way. But I'm challenging us to think a little differently in the countercultural way. You know, one of the simplest ways of thinking different than the way the world acts or the way the culture acts is this idea of kindness. And this past week, we took our second week to look at the word kindness. There's a scripture that I absolutely love out of Colossians. It says, "Clothe yourselves with compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience." Man, doesn't the world need more of those things? It's almost like the Bible knew what it was talking about. And so the writer here tells us this, and it's really good for us to explore that and find practical ways we can do that. One of the things I said this past week was that we really must, if we're going to be kinder people, we must seize the moment, like act on the moment. We told a story about a guy called the Good Samaritan, and he helped a guy that had been beaten and robbed, and he helped him in that moment. He didn't go wait and do all the things he had to do. He had probably plenty of things on his calendar, but he was willing to be interrupted in that moment, to seize the moment and help the guy and go beyond really what was even asked of him. And so for you and I think a practical application to think about on this regular week in the middle of the spring is to think about, you know, am I willing to be interrupted so that I can be kind to someone who is in need? There's a scripture that reminds us that when we are kind to someone else, it's like lending to the Lord. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a big thought for me, like that God would need something from me to lend to him. But I mean, you know, the Bible really says these things for us to really contemplate, think about, reflect on. And, you know, I think God is telling us how important we are in the economy of things, how important we are in the culture of things. And so we don't just look at the way the culture does things, we go counterculture to that. And we don't find a lot of kindness today. We don't find a lot of compassion today. And we certainly don't find a lot of willingness to be interrupted because we got things to do, people to see, places to go. And we don't find people willing to be interrupted so that they can help someone. And you know, the Bible, it just really helps us know how to live. And this is one of the best ways that we can live, is being willing to seize the moment by being willing to be interrupted from our regular schedule so that there's someone else that might need our help. And when we do that, it's like literally lending to the Lord. And it says in that same verse that God will repay you for your kindness. And we know that because God has been kind to us. And we are so thankful that he's been that way to us. So I just want to remind you today, man, don't be too busy to help someone. Don't be too busy to be kind to someone, because we all know what it's like. We know when someone spends a little extra time to love us and to be kind and caring to us. So that's really the kind of things we're talking about during this series. I hope that you'll join us this weekend. We're going to go into a little bit more of this becoming one of my favorite verses, this Colossians 3 verse 12, about clothing ourselves. And just a little heads up, you might see some of my shoe collection this week in my sermon as we talk about clothing ourselves with the right kind of things. So God bless you. Hope you're having a great week. And I pray God will give you plenty of interruptions this week to see if you can pass that test so that you can become a kinder person.